folks who are here from churches other than Northminster, Pasadena, or Claremont, descriptions of things that you see happening where you are with young people that are encouraging to you? Anyone? Okay, then I'll add two other things. One of the difficulties about youth ministry at this sort of moment, Renee described the statistic of 18 to 24-year-olds and the high percentage of them that are living with their parents. Young adults are inhabiting a particularly hostile environment in terms of finding work, and things that were true 10 years ago are no longer true for this group of young adults. And that's the world that high school students are sort of preparing for. And yet, what we have sort of done culturally is to take apart many of the what people call on-ramps to adulthood, right? For young people, where they're given skills and capacities to actually function as adults. And I think it's a fair critique of youth ministry of the past that what we've done is actually kind of like what Renee described. Put them in their own room, give them their own space, surround them only with their peers, which is what they're doing all day, Monday through Friday, an artificial environment, only with people of their own age, and said, just sort of have fun and don't break anything. Which has not really equipped them in any meaningful way to function as faithful adults in the world, right? Which part of what Paul describes the life skills class that they do with students. You've been doing this for a couple of years, right? Part of what's encouraging to me about that and interesting about that is that it is sort of one of these on-ramps, not only with the skills that are being taught, but with the relationships that are being developed between the students who go to do that and the adults that do those classes. So the collaborative stuff is open-ended. Paul and I started to work on these things based on the experience we had with the 30-hour famine, which we did it again together the next year. This year we each did it, but we did it separately. So this stuff is kind of fluid. Every year it looks a little bit different. Relationships are the same way. New people come into the conversation, right? So I would kind of urge you, if you're interested in being a part of how in this presbytery youth and young adult ministry takes shape, to just start to build some relationships, enter into the conversations, and see what happens. One thing that was really eye-opening for me was about a year and a half ago at the presbytery meeting in January at Rosemead. We had the vice moderator of the denomination here, and we had sort of loosely arranged for young people who were there, because he's relatively young, to hang out with him when it was over. And I expected maybe 3 or 4, but you had 15 to 20 students, many of them from Rosemead, and it was like an hour and a half to 2 hours that they just liked being with each other and being with him, and we just kind of got out of the way. And to me, if we would have tried to really rigidly program an event with them, it would have failed. But because we just created the space and let them relate to each other, things happened that we hadn't planned on, right? In the same way, the elder training event, the Winterfest event that we have here, had meaningful participation from youth and young adults from non-English speaking congregations. And it's the only thing in the 4 years I've been here, it's the only thing I've seen at the presbytery level that has had that kind of meaningful participation across the board from young people. And it was because they were given a meaningful thing to do and a meaningful grown-up conversation to be a part of. So those are the kinds of things that I'm interested in working with everyone about trying to create more of. So any other thoughts or questions? We probably need to wind this down so that the space can be ready for the meeting.
Well, at Copeland Place, Claremont, we have over the past several years established a relationship with the Claremont colleges, and it's based pretty much starting from them. We were quite surprised when they said our students are really interested in talking with not their parents' generation, but their grandparents' generation. And it focuses on social justice witness and the students that are interested in this, and there are a lot. And so the conversations have gone on. The colleges created a special class for this. and so forth. So this centering and sharing experiences over generations about something that these young people can do as an expression of, some of it's not an expression of their faith, just their interest in social justice.
Yeah.
But that they know who we are, and so it's a kind of a give and take.
And the initiative for that came from the colleges to Pilgrim Place.
Well, in a sense, we approached them first, but they were overwhelmingly interested, and that surprised us. We thought we'd have to really get some interest going, and they said, no, this is the way things are going, and it's spreading.
Right.
I mean, I will say just briefly, Yale University said they would take it over and they would fund it on their campus and all the rest of it.
Wow.
And so we're trying to figure out, all we've done is give them a name.
Yeah.
So there is an interest, we are told, on college campuses among students, a desire to relate to their grandparent generation based on a common interest for the future, shall we say.
Right. Which speaks to the intergenerational point that Renee was making, and the kind of thing that Paul is describing is happening at Northminster. The other thing that points out to me that I think is happening in youth and young adult ministry is the emergence of partnerships between congregations and groups of youth and young adults where they already are, without the assumption or expectation that they need to come into our church and do our stuff, or that we need to create a group for them here. So the Go Give Cookies to Pasadena College Students Ministry is not saying, we'll give you these cookies if you come to church, right? Or this is an enticement. It's not like the little gift you get in the mail, right, that guilts you into buying something. It's just going to where they are, working with that community of students. I had a conversation with a Claremont School of Theology professor last week about ways that we can work with some of their students to be part of our preschool chapel time that we do once a week. As a way of working with a group of young adults where they already are in partnership between the church and that community. I think that's something that's happening more and more, and that's a good sign to me that there are communities of youth and young adults out there doing really good work, right? Maybe we need less as the church to try to bring them into our congregation and make them do the things that our church is doing, and more to go to where they are and come alongside them. I read a really interesting description of a conversation at a conference where Mark Zuckerberg, who is the CEO of Facebook, right, was the keynote speaker, and somebody asked him, how do you tell us how to build a community, right? Because Facebook has built this massive online community. And his answer was very simply, you can't. You cannot build a community. Communities are already out there doing what it is they want to do. What you can do is come alongside them and add some value to what they're already doing, right? Which in Facebook's terms, he talks about elegant organization. Facebook helps communities organize themselves, right? I mean, it's a business, it makes a lot of money advertising on that model, but whatever. But that's been really interesting to me over the last couple of years to look at ways that we can partner with groups of young people. So the Claremont colleges have this group of students who are really interested in social justice activism and talking to the people of their grandparents' generation. Pilgrim Place doesn't have to say, you got to come do our thing. It's like, let's work with you to create something together that's a partnership. So, does anyone have any other thoughts or questions or encouragements about ministry with young people?